Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. There's a downloadable document in the Reconnection Club library called What to Do If Your Child Contacts You After Requesting No Contact. It's not the shortest title in our library, but there's a reason I created that sheet, because if your estranged adult child does contact you after asking you not to contact him, and you behave in the way most parents do when this happens, you may not only get hurt again, but your reconciliation could also be delayed just a little bit. And I don't want that to happen to you and your child just because of a simple misunderstanding. Let me describe what it looks like when you fall into what I call the escalation trap. Your estranged adult child who asked for no or substantially reduced contact reaches out to you, maybe out of the blue, and you have a nice interaction. Well, thinking the door has been opened, you reach back out to your child, and maybe that goes well at first or not, but at some point soon, you're rebuffed by either silence or a harsh response that just leaves you feeling very hurt and confused. If that sounds familiar, you may have fallen into this escalation trap. When estranged adult children who asked for less contact in the past make contact, parents, of course, think, this is great. We can finally make some progress. They assume that because the door has opened, it's now wide open. And wanting to make the most of this wonderful new access, they extend the contact. They stretch it out. They amplify it. They may introduce new topics for conversation. And they extend invitations for further contact. In other words, the contact escalates on the parent's side. It's as if the child has placed a bet in a poker game, and instead of just calling or matching it, the parent raises the stakes. And then they're shocked and hurt and bewildered when the child folds, as it were, and leaves the table, closing the door behind her. If that's happened to you, you might feel not only discouraged, but even angry at your child. Maybe it feels like she's toying with you, or she doesn't care about your feelings, or at the very least, like she can't make up her mind and you just wish she would. But as someone on the outside looking in at these interactions, what I perceive is a disconnect between the parent's need for connection and the adult child's need for psychological space. Importantly, neither the desire for closeness nor the desire for space is wrong. Ideally, we enjoy both in our most important relationships. If your no-contact estranged adult child reaches out to you and then disappears again, first listen to episode 38, called If Your Child Blows Hot and Cold, at reconnectionclub.com/38. Once you've identified any triggers to avoid in communication with your child, then you might also want to jot down some of the following points for the next time your child reaches out to you. Number 1, curb your natural enthusiasm. This is not easy. Of course you want to celebrate hearing from your child, but also remind yourself that the contact doesn't necessarily mean the estrangement has come to an end. Instead, it might signal the beginning of the next stage of estrangement, which is the reconciliation phase. When you hear from your child after a long silence, enjoy that, but also take that contact as a cue not to throw your reconnection strategy notes away, but to pull them out and study them again. Number 2, focus on slowing down. Try not to rush to solidify reconciliation. Hearing from your child may throw you into a flurry of emotions, including an anxious desire to make the most of the opportunity presented. Unless you were accused of too little involvement or interest in this child, imagine that you have to be the one pumping the brakes now that your child is approaching. Nothing will be gained by a headlong rush to togetherness without preparation. Think slow and steady wins the race. This might mean that you offer little at first. You can be as pleasant and loving and enthusiastic as you like toward your child, but imagine that those have to be contained within unrushed responses only. In other words, call every bet, but don't raise the stakes. And take your time. Go against your natural impulses if you must, but slow things down. Paradoxically, the less time you feel you have to reconnect with your child, the more important it may be to take things slowly. Number 3, let your child hold the reins. Try not having any ideas of your own about how this reconciliation should unfold. Your adult child initiated the separation, so find out how he wants to re-engage. If he asks for your opinion or help with reconnecting, that's another story. Again, if you've been accused of neglect or disinterest in the past, you have much more leeway here to possibly do some escalation. Otherwise, keep the pace of reconnection sustainable over time by letting your child do the driving as much as possible. Number 4, don't engage in heavy discussions over text that should take place either face-to-face or at least voice-to-voice in real time. Trying to have an important conversation with an estranged adult child via text or email is like trying to run across an ice rink in bowling shoes with no helmet, carrying scissors in both hands. It's not advisable. Instead, if your child brings up a topic or starts a conversation that feels dangerous, let them know you want to hear what they have to say and that it's important enough that you prefer to discuss it over the phone or in person. You can validate and respect your child without having to do exactly what he wants, especially if what he wants is something you know will probably not go well. If the conversation isn't important enough to warrant a phone call, then either it can wait or you can leave your child a brief voice message, but don't get pulled into a bad text exchange just to please your child. Collaboration is not the same as blind obedience. Number 5, give your child the last word. If you're not sure a particular conversation is over, look at the last thing your child said. If it's not a question, maybe you don't have to respond. Just be careful because not all questions have question marks. An example of an implied question that does need an answer from you would be something like, "I hope you're not mad at me." That's not technically a question, but clearly there's a question there that you would want to answer. Let's say you have a little back and forth and your child says, "Thanks." It may seem like a no-brainer to send a "you're welcome" or a smiley face or a heart emoji in reply. It may even seem impolite not to respond. I get that. But every time your no-contact child contacts you and gets the last word in, she's learning that it's safe to contact you because the contact will not escalate. There won't be a barrage of texts or photos or emojis just because your child opened the door a crack. And your slow, steady, non-intrusive welcomingness will be an open invitation for your child to contact you more and more and more. So when in doubt, leave it out. I hope those 5 tips will help you avoid the escalation trap. Remember, these may apply in cases where the adult child has expressed a desire for less contact in the past. They don't necessarily apply to every case of estrangement by an adult child. Number 1 was to treat any unexpected contact from your formerly no-contact child as a cue to tread cautiously, not to fling open the door. Number 2, make sure things go slowly, which is the opposite of what your heart might be longing for, I know. Third, try letting your child drive the pace and character of reconciliation unless they indicate that they want or need your help. Fourth, avoid writing when talking would be safer. Don't allow yourself to get pulled into heavy conversations with your child over text or email. And lastly, in every conversation, let an ambivalent adult child have the last word. By giving up an opportunity today to send just one more text, you might gain more opportunities tomorrow. So look for reasons not to send another text or do anything rather than reasons to do something. If your child learns through your actions that he can be near you on his terms without contact escalating beyond his capacity or his will, my hope for both of you is that he'll be comfortable reaching out to you more often in the future. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.